Thank you for tuning in to the World Builder's Anvil, Creation Despite Circumstance. How to work through the pain.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build.
Welcome back. As always, my name is Jeffrey W.
Medicatedly yours, I am Michael Miller.
We both have been having some good times here. Michael, much better times than me. Oh yeah. So it sort of inspired this episode. Hopefully by the time you guys hear this episode, it will not be a problem for either one of us. But today we want to talk a little bit about pain. Not those
writing pains
Actual
of deadlines and those annoyances of writer's block or being bothered by your day-to-day chores that get in the way of your creativity. We're actually talking about physical, medical pain.
And this really kind of goes back. It's a growing hatred of mine. Back in the early 90s, I got injured in the service. I broke a 32-ton vehicle.
Oh, I know the story, but I don't. You actually talked about it on a video not too long ago, but I think you should share exactly what you did and like what you were doing and how it happened.
I was a gunner on a Bradley fighting vehicle. We were doing maneuvers at a place called Hornsfels, Germany, which is essentially a place where you play war games with armored vehicles and M16s. A lot of fun if you ever get a chance to do it. And if you don't know, gunners have a very small view on the world. It's, about the size of a reticle on an armored vehicle. And essentially a nice two-dimensional view.
Two dimensions.
We were traveling cross-country at about... Yes, you get two dimensions, height and width. There's no depth perception for a gunner. You can't... You can guesstimate distances of like vehicles by their size and what magnification you're on, but it's really a guesstimation.
Rangefinders?
And not on Bradley fighting vehicles when I was in the service. M1 tanks had them, but not Bradleys. Well, Bradleys are typically like when you're doing an average engagement on a Bradley, they give you...
I was about to say your engagement distances were probably pretty close, though. Huh?
Up to about 1,000 meters. You can go further than that, but essentially, like if you're using the main gun of a Bradley, the 25 millimeter, you have 8 shots to put, I believe, if I remember correctly, 3 rounds through target. Because that's what they estimated it would take to destroy a vehicle that we could hit with the main gun. And they expected more rounds because you didn't have all the fancy rangefinders like a tank would have, but tanks take longer to reload, where a Bradley has a chain gun. But needless to say, as we're traveling, we were doing, I believe, Soviet-style tactics at the time, because we usually play the bad guys as scouts, because it's very hard for scouts to maneuver and practice because you need a really large area for a very small number of people to practice in. But whatever side I was playing on, we were going cross-country, probably about 45 kilometers an hour, and my driver did not hear the Bradley commander saying that we were approaching a ditch, and he drove off about a 12-foot ditch, which threw me almost completely out of the turret of the vehicle. I kind of smashed my chest on the front of the sights on top of the turret, and then it pulled me back in, and I smashed down, and I broke off the manual trigger of the 25 millimeter with my knee. And needless to say, that hurt. That hurt a lot. And needless to say, in my older age and through time, I've learned that essentially the only thing holding my knee together at this point are muscles. missing stuff like cartilage and ligaments and no meniscus.
How poor is the driver's visibility that he couldn't see that large of a ditch?
From my experience driving a Bradley fighting vehicle, I forget if he had his scope in, but it's really poor. Essentially, he drives with his hatch down because of where it's positioned on the vehicle. His hatch needs to be down. So essentially, he has these little, like slits that kind of go around about, I'm going to say half, but that's generous, about half of his hatch. To one side is the engine, and behind him, obviously, is the vehicle. So it's on one side and in front of him most of the way. It was more like he just didn't probably hear the Bradley commander.
This wasn't on radio. The Bradley commander's actually in the Bradley.
But he's in the Bradley. He would ride next to me in the turret. So it was across the internal intercoms. So I heard it, but I had no idea what was going on or what was coming up. So I was completely unbraced for it, which might have been good because they say if you brace for stuff, it's worse. But it also almost threw me out of the vehicle completely. And like I said, I broke a 32-ton vehicle with my knee.
Tough knees.
Which I do feel pretty badass for that. But but needless to say, since then, the older I get, that was several years ago. The older you get, the more the pain catches up with you. The last time I had an orthoscope, they told me it was my last.
And by several, you mean like 20 years ago?
Approaching, yeah, or maybe over. I don't know. I'm getting too old to do that much math. So, but yeah, no. So essentially, what had happened was I had a series of problems, but now because of it, it's like my knee will get sore. I don't have cartilage there. My meniscus is almost stripped in half, but not quite. My ligaments are all screwed up in my knee, which causes me foot problems and plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis. I have a tendency to get, and I also get bursitis in my hip because of it. So several little issues that sort of pop up around it. And if it gets really bad, it will take out my lower than upper back. So it can be quite bad. I had a minor flare, my first one since my last surgery, which was October 2015, I believe. But yeah, no, that hurt, and it'll come back. And unfortunately, there's no way to get your cartilage back. So essentially, I was told the next time I need surgery, it will be a knee replacement, which I'm sort of young for. So we're trying to hold off on that, but we'll see what comes of that. But it really has given me a big hatred for pain, especially reoccurring pain, but pain in general. So that's sort of one of the things behind the show. And before we go on any further, I want to say I am a fiction writer, and I lie. I will not be lying about the things I'm talking about today, but for the love of all that is good and holy, seek advice from actual medical professionals. Don't just start doing things on your own. Whenever you do stuff like this, you should really talk to someone who actually knows what they're talking about. I just know from my anecdote, obviously from Mike's statement to be medicated, he knows from his anecdote that, the things that you can kind of do to try and get through the best you can, because it varies. It's really varying. Why don't you go ahead, Mike?
I definitely want to say something about speaking to medical professionals. Certainly in the United States, I can't speak towards what medical care is like in other countries to a great degree. I can to a small degree on certain countries. But in the United States, you really have to understand that you are your own advocate.
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah.
I will get specific about what I have been dealing with recently, but a big piece of what I've been dealing with is the decision as to whether or not I should get surgery done on my back. Now,
yes,
the untrained person is going to default to the trained professional, i.e. someone who doesn't know a lot or doesn't do the research or who hasn't been dealing with it for a long time would just listen to what the doctors advise. I got 2 doctors saying, at all costs, do not do surgery. And these are, smart, well-trained, well-experienced professionals.
Yeah.
I've got 2 doctors saying I should definitely do the surgery. And these are smart, well-trained, well-experienced professionals. So you have to get that just because a person is a doctor doesn't mean they're correct. It doesn't mean they have your best interests. It doesn't mean they know your body or what you can take or what should be done to your body the best. I have a herniated disc in my mid-back. This is not what I've been dealing with recently, but this is an example of what I'm talking about. I have a herniated disc in my mid-back as a result of a bad dive into a lagoon in Mexico 15 feet off the water. I hit the water wrong, and for a split second, I literally thought I broke my spine. I heard the snap. I felt a snap in my back, and half my lower body went like tingly and numb. As I was underwater, I'm like, holy crap, did I just break my back? But, I could move, I could swim, I was fine, and then I started to numb up from the adrenaline, and I was okay. And of course, because I was young and dumb, and I was on vacation, I didn't think about it because I felt okay. Like, I didn't feel sore or whatever. So what I thought I did was I thought I just cracked my back hard. What I actually did was, obliterate a disc. It has never caused me a great deal of pain except when it acts up. Cut to a good 10 years later, it's starting to cause a lot of pain. I get to the point where I have seen my doctor. I have had a bunch of tests done, muscle tests, x-rays, nerve tests. I'm seeing an ortho guy, a back specialist. I was on painkillers and muscle relaxers. And he was saying cortisone injections and possible surgery. That's what we were talking about at that point. Now, at the time, I thought chiropractors were quacks because I knew multiple people who were permanently messed up due to chiropractic care. So I had no faith in chiropractors. I was uneducated about chiropractors. I was very ignorant as to what they do and where their perspective comes from. So my wife and I happened to be at this local festival, this apple harvest festival, and there was a chiropractor with a table set up doing evaluations to bring in business. He'd do a quick 5-minute evaluation, and he had a deal going where, it was like $30 for 3 visits to get an initial, treatment going. So I figured, okay, well, he's sitting here for free. Maybe he can tell me something. More information is always good. Maybe he can tell me something that my doctor doesn't know. I don't even know what compelled me to sit in the chair other than it was free, because I did not believe in chiropractic care at the time. I think just because I was desperate, because I was in a lot of pain. I was not myself. I wasn't sleeping. I was on, like I said, I was on multiple medications. I was on painkillers and muscle relaxers. I wasn't myself. I wasn't happy. So I sat down in the chair, and within 1 minute, he found the 2 spots in my back that I knew were trouble. And within another minute, he found 2 more that my doctor didn't know about and I didn't know about. And he's like right here and right here.
Them. Yeah.
And he like touched them and like pushed on them in a way that immediately activated my back. I was like, And I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, you're just subluxated. It's not a big deal. We can do something about that. And I was like, okay. The fact that I did all these tests and went to all these doctors, and I've been repetitively seeing this other doctor, and I'm on medication, and they didn't, and it took him a while to find these 2 spots. And this doctor found them like that. I mean, literally in a minute. I started seeing him 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. So I probably visited him 4 times, maybe, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I was off the pain meds. I was off the muscle relaxers. I felt myself again. I was sleeping again. Yeah. He literally changed my life in 2 weeks just by doing some back adjustments. So that's a case where, had I listened to the Western medicine guys, and mind you, chiropractic care is Western medicine, but had I listened to the guys that are just strictly
the
classical medication, surgery, procedures, blah, 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 they'd have cut me open. They'd have given me injections. They would have done this. They would have done that. And who knows if it would have even helped. I went to Dr. Rob, and 2 weeks later, was fine. Now, I have since been seeing him for like 6 years. He takes very good care of me. I generally don't experience a great deal of back pain. Once in a while, it acts up. About once or twice a year, it'll act up, and it's usually if it acts up, it's because I have been neglecting my back care. What I've been dealing with now is a second herniated disc in like my tailbone. When I had gotten an MRI like 5 years ago, I had the one herniated disc up in the mid-back, and I had two bulging down basically in my butt. And the two bulging are just from sitting, literally just too much sitting. So because of the way my job had changed, I sit a lot more. Because of the the extracurriculars, I've been sitting a lot more. I blame Destiny. I spend a lot of time in my desk chair playing Destiny. So I spend a lot of time at my computer desk, and all of that adds up to slowly bulging that disc more and more to the point of herniation, because I have not been doing the exercises that I should be doing to undo that. Because you can undo a bulging disc. You can push a bulging disc back into place. Once it's herniated, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do.
Yeah.
So now I've gotten to the point where it's herniated and it has pressed on the sciatic nerve running into my leg. And what I have been dealing with for the past 2 weeks is the most excruciating pain I have ever experienced in my life. So getting back to like choosing who to listen to, like, don't just listen to the first doctor. Even if the first doctor is trustworthy and a genius, like even Dr. Rob, I'm not just listening to him. I still have seen 3 other doctors.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be your best advocate. You have to really think about what you want to do to yourself. And you definitely want to be very cognizant of making a decision that will affect you permanently to treat something that is temporary. So, like, the neurosurgeon that I saw, because of the extremity of my circumstance, he immediately was like, we should probably consider surgery because you are in so much pain. And I was like, I don't want to do surgery if this pain is temporary. And he's like, the basic gist is, my body will heal the hernia to the point where it can handle itself. But it's how much pain can you take and how long do you want to take it? Because it could take 2 months for it to straighten this out. And in the meantime, I could be in agony for a good chunk of that time. So do you do a potentially life-altering surgery that might have no negative outcome? It might just be it fixes the problem and boom, you're done. And that's it. But there's truckloads of people where there's a little slip, they nick a nerve, and now they have a nerve issue for life. Because they decided to do that surgery. Even though this surgery is not a big deal. It's a very textbook, minor, minimally invasive thing these days. But that's something that I needed to weigh. So you don't just want to listen to one person.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And that's the reason I use the term advice. Just because from my experience with my knee, and from other experience, which I'll get into some of that later, you definitely have to pay attention to what they're telling you. You want to go to other people who aren't part of the specialty, because typically specialists will always think about what is the best approach from their perspective. And even different kinds of medical doctors have different perspectives because they look at things in different ways. Surgeons go to surgery faster than non-surgeons. Especially if you're seeing someone who's good at it surgically, talk to someone who's good at it not surgically as well, at least. Chiropractors work. I think they solve problems temporarily. You need exercise, and to work on your muscles to get longer term solutions.
Absolutely.
But I've had a lot of back pain from this as well too. So I could tell you, chiropractors can make quick adjustments, which will help. And but I think the biggest thing that you have to do in this process, if you want to be able to get to your creative stuff, which might be easier than your job. Like Michael has a very physical job at moments, but because of that, there's different levels of what the kind of pain he can be in and work versus me, where I work at a computer and recording a lot. So this might or might not be useful outside of being creative. It depends on what you do for a living. But the first thing you have to do is be present and be honest with yourself. You have to learn to listen to your body, because you know what? When I think back at all the times I missed it, I knew it was if I would have been paying more attention to the little twigs and pains from my body, I could have maybe mitigated it. And you're not always, but it's worth a shot, because the sooner you catch it, not always, but usually you can mitigate the worst pain, because pain will cause extreme pain at times. It's cyclical. It won't always be at the same level. So sometimes it's very mild or you won't notice it. And other times it can get really extreme. It can lead to extreme fatigue. Being even in mild pain all day, you will be tired much earlier in the evening, no matter what you do. And it also leads to what I like to call a mild case at a minimum of assholeness at times. You have to understand that you will be that way if you're in pain all the time. Say
that again, because your microphone cut out, so I didn't
you can get a mild case of assholeness at times when you're in a lot of pain.
Yep.
It's just something that will come, and you have to realize that you're doing this, and try not to, because it's not the fault of the people you're being an asshole to.
It takes a tremendous amount of patience with yourself and the other people around you to be in the kind of pain, that I've been in the past 2 weeks. And I'll cite some examples in a little bit.
And one of the things I want to say is remember, when you're suffering, especially if you live with other people, you're not suffering alone. And I want to take this from a different approach. About 11 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And luckily, she beat the cancer about 10 years ago and has not had it come back since then. But the thing was, at the time, I felt an incredible amount of pressure on me, because I want to alleviate everything, because you don't know what's going to happen when something really bad's going on and you have no control as an individual. It makes you feel horrible because you want to take away the pain and the suffering for the people you love. And the lucky side is, because it's on the other side of the coin, it's like sometimes when, she's babying me too much and I'm like, I'm not this like wussy person that likes to be babied. I can respect that. I understand what's going on. She's just trying to mitigate the pain the way I was trying to mitigate the pain for her, the suffering. So, keep in mind that everyone around you, they're not going to feel the physical pain you are, but they're going to get mental anguish as well, because they care for you. That's why they're around you. And this is also another area where we really learn quickly, you have to advocate for yourselves. And sometimes you have to argue with doctors. If you think they're wrong, you have to argue with them, because ultimately it's your choice to make for your health care, at least at this point. So as long as you have that ability to make choices for yourself, do what you think is best, take the advice, make the best decision you can. But don't just listen to people like me who are giving you an anecdotal story, or people like Mike who's giving you his anecdotal story. We're telling you things that work for us, good and bad. But, it's like life. Unfortunately, it's just not as simple as a template where you can just take one person's solution and have it work for you. Because even if you have the exact same condition I do, our bodies are a little bit different and we're going to respond differently to different things. So just keep that in mind. Always ask for advice, but realize that you're the only one who feels what's going on in you, and you have to make those choices.
And you'll have some insights about your body that even if the doctor's like, oh, yes, I understand, or I know what you're talking about, there's going to be some perspective and some insight that you have just because you're the one feeling it and experiencing it. I wanted to go back a second to what you were saying about not suffering alone. This past 2.5 weeks, it's been really tough on my wife. She has been obviously until today, I've been pretty much bedridden for about 1.5 weeks. For the past 2 weeks, like the week prior to that, light duty, wasn't doing a whole heck of a lot. But I've literally been almost exclusively in bed for the past week and a half. A couple days ago, it was so bad for 2 days that I literally had, and I still do, actually, it's still sitting here, a bucket on the side of my bed so that I could just turn my body a certain way and pee into a bucket because I couldn't get to the bathroom. And the bathroom's only 10 feet. It's really close. It's literally right next to the bedroom. But I can't even stand. For those 2 days, I could not even stand up. So that's the solution. So you can imagine, if I can't stand, I can't go and make my meals. I can't go and brush my teeth. I can't help my wife with any of the chores. I can't, help prep her lunches. I can't do any cleaning. I can't do anything but just lay here and wait for my body to, work on itself and just rest and try to recoup. And a lot of that time was spent in just anguish and pain. And it's super frustrating for Sarah because not only does she have all those extra duties she's now picking up on, not just the household stuff that I'm not doing, but the additional tasks of caring for me, getting my toothbrush, making my meals, setting me up with food for the day all around the bed, so that within arm's reach, so that she can leave and I can make sure to eat enough and drink enough while she's gone. But additionally, I'm literally screaming in agony at times, just screaming. I'm in so much pain, and there is nothing that she can do about it. Nothing.
Yeah.
And that's hard for someone that cares about you. It's really hard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's, and right now you're saying to yourself that, I thought this was going to help us cope with it, but there's a few things you have to understand are the reality of the situation, and once we get through these, then we'll get more into a few mitigation things that you can do. But, if you're not honest with yourself, if you don't realize how you're acting, the sacrifices other people are making for you, or if you have a loved one in pain, what's going through their brain too. There's a reason why, people who are in chronic pain a lot of times have mental issues if it's over a long period of time and if the pain's sustained enough, because you feel like you can't do anything. And I'm going to tell you that screws with your mind. But the biggest thing you have to realize is the health, both mentally and physically, are the most important thing. So like normally I'm an accomplishment first kind of person. Did I get task A, B, C done today? But when I'm especially having pain issues, the first thing I'm worried about is how do I minimize this now so I can get more accomplished in the long run? And which means sometimes I don't get as much done as I want to, but it's okay. It's okay if I can hopefully then get to more later. But the thing is, if you're not sleeping well, which is even worse with pain because sometimes it keeps you awake, but you need sleep. You need more sleep than normal when you're recovering from injury. So, if you're having issues, you need to talk to someone who you can trust, who you can alleviate some of the mental pain on, who can either help you with it or just listen if that's all you need. I don't know what people need, but, I found at least talking about it sometimes to people who, is very therapeutic for me. So, find something that works for you, do what works for you, but realize that you have to consider, be honest with yourself. And if the pain is getting worse, try and do things to mitigate it, get more rest if needed, but deal with your mental and physical well-being before you worry about getting the next chapter done, before you worry about getting the next podcast episode done. I mean, yes.
Yeah, understand that you are important. And in the context of your life, you have to be a priority. Not everyone in this world will prioritize you. I mean, if you got friends and loved ones in your life that care a great deal for you, of course they're going to take care of you. They're going to prioritize you. But you have to you have to acknowledge that yourself, that you are important, that you have value, and that you have to take care of yourself. Yeah. You have to take care of yourself.
Now, a good place to start if you're in an okay place, you know, where you're either unsure or you think you can get stuff done, is that 50-minute challenge from a couple episodes ago that I issued. The reason I got to that was because of having chronic pain issues. So, or even if you have like fear of getting started issues, just sitting down and saying, I'm going to try for 50 minutes to write a little bit, to world build a little bit. I'm going to take this time and see what I can get done. You know, if you feel in a place where you know, the overall rest is okay, and choose your work well too. If you're heavily medicated, don't do high thinking activities. You know, if you're writing a first draft, it's okay. It might even help. I don't know. But just say, let me try for 50 minutes. And if I can't do it, let me back off and be okay with that, because I accomplished the task of trying to do the work I thought I was going to do today. But if you don't hit that 50-minute challenge, it's not worth beating yourself up over, because once again, your mental and physical health are more important. They just are.
You definitely don't want to punish yourself. Also, if you can't do something, you got to be honest with where you're at. You have to understand. I've never been a huge fan of the concept of understand your limitations, because I'm very much a person that believes in pushing past your limitations. Yeah. But there is something to that statement. If you are physically limited by an injury or pain or whatever, understand what you can do and don't overdo it. Understand where you're at so that you know as you progress, you will get past it, you will do better. But for right now, this is one of the greatest things ever. Whenever you can say anything about your life, pretty much anything about your life that's negative, add the words right now to the end of that sentence. My life sucks right now. I am in a great deal of pain right now. Those two words add the confirmation that what's going on for you right now is temporary. It is not always going to be this way. And that's okay. There's a great assurance in that it's not always going to be this way. It can get better. So if things are tough, if you're having difficulty, acknowledge that that's what it is right now and deal with it right now. Get that it's only right now. It's going to change. Yeah. Because like, I couldn't tell you some of the crazy thoughts that were going through my head a few days ago when I think now is a good moment to discuss what my other night was like, because I don't know how much of this I even told you, Jeff. The other night, my wife has an uncle who's absolutely awesome, Uncle Richard, who doesn't walk well. He's got a number of canes, and since this a herniated disc has been impinging my sciatic nerve, the result of that has been excruciating leg pain, not back pain, leg pain. Like moving into a sitting and or upright position, it feels like literally somebody was jamming a hot poker into my hip bone. And my leg immediately like goes to sleep. My leg, even right now, is still like half asleep. But like for like an entire week and a half, felt like it was half asleep. So fatigued, tired, excruciating pain. So Uncle Richard was kind enough to let me borrow 2 of his canes, because it took me 2 to stand and walk. So I'm on very strong narcotics for the pain, and even multiple painkillers. And despite that, it's still incredibly painful. So it gets to the point where I know I'm going to have to use the toilet, and I can't sit. Like, that's the thing. I cannot sit. Sitting upright, being upright is very difficult. And I'm saying to my wife, and I said to her a few days prior, I wasn't in as much pain as this night in particular. I said, if it gets really, really bad, I'll just defecate in the shower. And both of us kind of looked at each other like, ugh. And she was like, really did not want to have to deal with that. Like, I could see it in her face. And I was like, look, it's not my first choice, but if I'm physically incapable of doing it, like, what choice do I have? Now, at the time when I had said that, I could still stand. Now, this particular night, and the night is getting later and later, it got to the point where it's like midnight, and I have to use the toilet. At this point, there's no waiting any longer, and there's no point in waiting any longer. This objective has to be dealt with. So I get up, and I make my way into the bathroom, screaming as I walk. Hobble is more like it. I can barely move my leg at all. Like even to shuffle it forward as I step with one foot, I'm literally like dragging my foot along the ground while, walking with the two canes. So I make it into the bathroom, and the pain while I'm standing up is like fluctuating between 7 and 9. Like sometimes I can get it as low as a 6 if I'm positioned just so, but I can't find a right position. It's not like if I put myself in this position, I can maintain a pain level of 6. It's just maybe I get lucky and I get to a 6, and otherwise just moving around, it's moving back and forth between 7 and 9. When I sit, it is 9, 10. And I'm standing and I'm like, I've got nothing but a pair of socks on. I'm screaming intermittently as I move from the bedroom to the bathroom, and I'm hovering over the toilet, I'm right there. My tush is 1.5 feet from the goal. All I need to do is put my bottom on the bowl, and I just can't do it. I physically cannot do it. I try to swing my leg a certain way. I try to straighten my leg and bend my other leg so that one leg is straight and one is bent, and I'm because having the leg straighter what helped. That was better than having it bent. Bending at the hip was agonizing, and I bend down and I bend down, and I can almost get there, but I can't. The pain is just too much. Then I push myself to a standing position again, and I cry out, and I'm frustrated. And then I suck it up, and I'm like, you know what? I just have to sit down. I just have to suck it up and deal with this. Is going to be excruciating, but I need to poo. So I sit down and I cry out, and it hurts, and it's a 9. It's a strong 9, and I can't take it. And I push myself back up, and I'm standing again, and I try to do it again, and I get down almost to a sitting position again, and it hurts so bad, and I stop, and I push myself to a standing position again, and I let go of the cane, and I punch the bathroom door, and I smash the other cane against the tub basin, and I scream, and I'm so frustrated, and I'm in so much pain, and I have to poo, and there's just nothing to be done. And I'm standing there like, am I just going to stand here and just poop on the floor? Like, what can I do? Like, what can I do? And I'm pragmatic. I'm practical. Like, I don't want to make a mess. And here's my poor wife just standing there like, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm like, there's nothing for you to do. Like, she feels for me. Like, you should have seen the look in her face. But, I'm in just agony, and she can't help, but something's got to give. It's still going to happen. So at this point, I am crumpled on the floor, and I struggle to climb over the tub wall and get myself into the tub. And mind you, even on the floor, I'm still at like a 6 to 8 pain level. Like, the pain is not subsiding. It's not going away or diminishing a whole heck of a lot. And now I am committed to being on my hands and knees like an animal and defecating in my shower, because I have no choice. There's nothing I can do. I can't keep myself upright. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, step out of the bathroom. Like, there's not a whole lot of dignity left in this room, but like, let me try to salvage some of it. So Sarah steps out, and I start to go, and I'm like, oh, wait, come back. And I'm like, give me some toilet paper. Maybe I can catch it on the way out so that at least it's not a big mess in the shower. And that proved a poor effort. I tried to, but didn't, wasn't able to do it. So I end up pooping on my foot in the shower. So there's poop like on me. I'm still in pain. I'm doubled over, like hands and knees in the shower. There's poop on my foot and on my backside, and now my wife has to come into the tub, pick it up, you know, clean what she can off the tub floor, turn on the shower, clean me up. I've still got, you know, excrement on me, and I'm still like in agonizing pain. So you want to talk about a frustrating moment. Like, you want to talk about a difficult moment. And that was just me using the bathroom. That's all that was. It took probably, you know, an hour all in to try to use the toilet, to then crawl into the shower, to finish up, to get back to my feet, to take a full shower with the assistance of my wife. We have a handle in the shower, so I'm clutching that handle for dear life to prevent myself from falling, because at this point, I'm so fatigued. My body is so tired. My legs are so tired. My leg hurts so bad. And she is just like washing the hot spots, you know, washing my armpits and, you know, getting the sweat gland areas. And I'm washing off my backside, and we're using a brush to clean a poo off my foot. And of course, there's poo in the shower and urine, so she's kind of hosing that down and hitting it with some cleaner. And then finally, you know, everything's all done, get me dried off, and then get back into bed, and I'm just exhausted. I'm so tired. Like, I'm so tired. While I'm walking from the bathroom to the bedroom. So after hearing all that ordeal, you can imagine how tough it was for me to be in that moment. But this is what I said to my wife right then and there while I was in the hallway between the bathroom and the bedroom. I said, that was a test. I said, I've been waiting 8 years to do that to you. And you passed. and I giggled and she giggled. I said I was going to do it to you. I was going to poop. I was going to make you clean my poop out of the shower a few years ago, but I didn't think you were ready. So I think something that's truly important is to be able to take it all with a grain of salt and maintain your sense of humor about it. And especially someone that loves you the way my wife loves me and the way I love her, is that it's more than dignity. It's more than pride. You know, there's a level of understanding there that you just have to work through the suffering and you have to, you know, get through it. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be like, here I am sharing that moment with all of you guys and now it's on the internet. And I don't care. I don't mind, you know.
Hopefully Sarah doesn't either.
I don't think she will. I'm sure she knows that I was going to share this story. But the point is that I could have taken that moment and made it very defeating. Like, even immediately after the moment, I found the humor in it. And even now, like, I don't see it defeating. You know what I mean? Like, you could make that be like, oh, that was a real low moment, and you know, punish yourself for having done that. Even the next day, we were talking about if that has to happen again, because the pain hadn't subsided the next day, and we were planning on if I needed to use the bathroom again, like we're like, let's, you know, buy some newspaper. Literally, I was going to poop on newspaper in my shower like a dog, just because from a practical standpoint, that'd be easier to clean up. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not beating myself up. It's just, that's where I was at. To be honest, that's where I was at. That's what I was capable of doing. So that's what we were going to do. Now, fortunately, I didn't have to go again, and I was able to sit on the toilet last night and today. So things are much better.
Yes, that's a massive improvement. But, you know, I think that leads to the ultimate point here is you have to keep your sense of humor while you're not punishing yourself. You have to be able to joke about it. You have to realize that it's not a weakness, you know, to be in these moments. It's just a condition at that moment.
To be vulnerable, yeah. And it is, just like what you said, it's temporary in that moment.
Like, I mean, you figure like last week we recorded a podcast episode. I went over and I was helping Mike, not with that, but I was still, for a guy to ask one of his guy friends to come over and help you out because you can't get something that you consider basic done, you know, could be humiliating, but it shouldn't be, because it's just because of this condition at this moment.
My buddy Ryan has been here every day this week preparing my lunches. Like, Sarah has cooked all the food, but Ryan has come over, taken it out of the fridge, microwaved it, and prepped it for me and brought it in to me to eat it, because I have not been able to until today. Today, I was able to make my own lunch, which was a big deal.
That's awesome.
But for the past 4 days, Ryan has come over and helped me out.
But, but the big thing is, really, if you want to create through the pain, that's fine. Try those tasks. Never do more than 3 a day, even when you feel healthy. Give yourself 3 things that you want to get done. Give yourself 15 minutes to try. You'll find most of the time in that 15 minutes, you can get through the whole thing. If you can work that 15 minutes. So it's just starting.
It's surprising how much you can accomplish when you commit the time. Even the 15 minutes. Like, if you take I don't care if it's 15 minutes, I don't care if it's 2 hours. If you have concentrated time where you say, for this 15 minutes, for this hour, for this 2 hours, I am going to do nothing else but work on my book, but work on my website, but work on my art. That's what I'm giving myself, but it will be a 100% focused effort. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish in 15 minutes or whatever time period you decide to set.
Yeah. So really, it's about putting the effort forward sometimes, but depending on where you are in the cycle of pain or in the cycle of the illness, like when my wife had cancer, we knew about 48 hours after her chemo, or was it 24? It's been a while now. The steroids would wear off as part of the anti-nausea medicine, and she would crash. So we didn't plan stuff for that time because it was impossible. So you have to understand those limitations and realize that it's a temporary thing. That you're either, it's either a temporary thing cyclically throughout your life, if it's one of those chronic things that never go away. But you have to be realistic in those moments. Keep your humor about yourself. Love the people around you who help you, because trust me, you're only there because you love them at that point. There's it's not fun. So, and respect the people who are doing that for you, and understand that you might need to do it for them later on. Just when you are in those moments that you're not there or you're unsure, try those 15 minutes, set some time, I'll set like an hour aside for time, and I will do those 15 minutes. And if you're a person like me who kind of struggles with focus in general, these are sort of how I came up with, probably 3 months ago, I had the focus of rat terrier. Now I can focus for a full hour at a time on stuff, sometimes even longer. I don't like to go longer because I know I lose productivity. But if you're looking for some focus help in general, go to smallbizlife.com/focus. There's currently a day planner that can help you out there. And realize that a lot of those techniques I formed because of my chronic pain, and so planning out what you're going to do becomes more important when you suffer from chronic conditions. But being agile and being able to say, I can't do this now, I'll hold this off until later, and I'll do something else now because of the pain, like sleep. So listen to your body, be present, and when you have those moments, try for at least 15 minutes to get whatever creative work that you can get done, and realize that maybe this is all you can do for right now, but when you get through into a little bit better position, you can get more done. So now we're going on to the world building task of the day.
Already? You don't want to... You feel you covered all those bullet points? I feel like you missed a couple.
Well, I did, but I can't really top the story, so...
Well, you don't have to top the story.
Well, but what I'm saying, though, it's like that was led into the last point, and I think it worked good because, a lot of this other stuff that you've heard from other places, don't neglect your meal and water. Those two things I really should cover this one.
Well, that's
because it's tempting when you don't feel bad, because the thing is, I don't feel hungry. Eat like a little salad or something if you don't feel hungry, because your body's consuming a lot more energy trying to fix yourself.
Yep.
So you have to have food even if you don't feel hungry. You have to have water, because if you become dehydrated in that state and you don't have energy, I don't know. I'm not a medical person, but I do know it's really bad. It's a lot worse to get dehydrated when you're in pain.
Also, speaking from my past 2 weeks, I have been on some really serious medication. So you need to drink even more so, just so not to beat up on your liver and kidneys, because the medication is so strong. Like, you need enough hydration in your body just to help handle the strength of those medications. So. And
I know with some chronic illnesses, like with cancer, Kristin's taste buds changed every time she had chemo. Every time. So we would literally have to go through a routine of Jeffrey trying to cook, which is bad enough. But getting food ready for her, but they're finding what her taste buds would find acceptable. And I remember there was one point where she didn't like the taste of chocolate, and that almost broke her. Mm. Because it's like she could always fall back on chocolate, and then they got to a point where she tried the chocolate and it didn't work, and so we have to cycle through all of the foods to see what the chemo wasn't tainting the flavor of, because the eating, the drinking are essential. So that one I probably really do need to cover. The rest of them are stuff you might hear, and I kind of covered a little bit in my final rant there. So, but that one I probably did need to cover, at least as a bullet wise. So now on to the world building task of the day. And this is the awful person who loves telling stories, the evil game master treated himself. Pay attention to how you feel when you're really sick, and especially when you're really in pain, and take notes, and then later on use them for story gold. That's horrible. I feel horrible. I'm taking advantage of myself. But, the same way we spine other people, those moments teach us a little bit about humans, those thoughts that go through our brains that are irrational. Mm-hmm. What would happen if all of those thoughts weren't irrational to someone? They lead you to future story ideas. And as horrible as it might sound to some people, take advantage of that. The same way you'd watch people having an argument in public to take advantage of that later on. Use your own pain and suffering the same way, because at least you get something that you'll enjoy out of it later on. I feel slightly disgusting saying that, but it's true, and I completely do.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, okay, but you and me were evil, so I don't know. But we're evil in a good way. All right. And now the other thing is, share the misadventures.
This is the real world task.
This is the real world task. Share your misadventures. You don't have to go as much detail as someone like Michael. The thing is, especially as you're sharing your stuff out there, sharing the humanity of yourself is a very powerful way to connect with individuals. And yeah, some people might not like you, and it might lead to trolling, but I kind of accept that. I don't give a crap. Troll me, I don't care. Try. There's nothing you can say that's going to bother me. But the thing is, share the misadventures out there. It allows people to understand there's some humanity in you, and it helps you connect with people. And you can choose the level you want to share, and there's no need to share everything. And I would suggest sharing everything, but especially if it's something you could tie back to help out the people who you interact with, that you're sharing with. That's awesome. You should do that. And then on top of it, go watch some pure comedy tonight. Just something straight up comedy, not a dark comedy, just straight up slapstick or whatever. Just you need something to laugh.
Yeah, lighten the mood.
You got to keep the humor. My suggestion for world builders, you have to watch History of the World Part 1. Yeah.
It's a good place to start. Because
it's all true history.
From a Mel Brooks point of view.
And a little Roman gold never hurt anyone except when they got caught. Okay. So I hope everyone has a wonderful week. And next week, we will definitely have a more upbeat and fun episode. So for all those of you who are out there who are still listening, thank you. For those of you, we hope there's something you can do to help. If you have something that you think people could try, share it with people. Share it out there. Things that people can do to get through. And it's amazing. It's amazing what we can do for each other if we just help each other. So, but we'll definitely have a more upbeat episode next time. I'll give Michael pretty much carte blanche on picking the episode he wants.
You are asking for trouble now.
Well, I'm trying to mitigate it in case it sucks, that I can blame it all on you later.
Oh, it won't suck. It'll be amazing because I will think of it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil. We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends, and so would they. If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting by showing them Stitcher or iTunes, or, best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.